Where news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
Good evening. I'm Saul Saenz, and this is ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. Thank you for sharing your Sunday evening with us. Many migrants turn themselves over to Border Patrol agents at the border and ports of entry, but sometimes they use smugglers who, for a price, pick up the migrants once they cross, then take them to stash houses. Governor Greg Abbott began cracking down on illegal crossings by initiating Operation Lone Star, increasing the number of DPS troopers in the borderland who have a broad pursuit policy. Troopers, Border Patrol, and local authorities are keeping an eye on these smugglers from the time migrants are picked up to the moment the pursuit ends, and they're keeping track of them from up in the air and on the ground. To get a complete picture of these pursuits the instant they happen, producer John McMahon and I combined forces, joining a DPS helicopter, John on a DPS helicopter, and myself on the ground, riding along with a trooper. It's dramatic video we showed you earlier in the week and that you'll only see on ABC-7. Watch. Migrants who come to our borders from different parts of the world have one thing in common: in search of a dream.
Well, our dream was to come and work here because there is no work in Guatemala.
That dream for this 21-year-old Guatemalan turned into a nightmare when this happened. Norma Judith was inside that SUV. DPS initiates pursuits almost on a daily basis in the borderland, many of those happening overnight. We wanted to take an inside look at the DPS pursuit policy by riding along with troopers both on the ground,
Mobile 2, go ahead,
and up in the air.
Good eyes on this group right here on Barker.
Inside this DPS helicopter with night vision. Down on the ground, this ride along started around 4:30 in the morning. No sooner had we left DPS headquarters than this happened. A DPS pursuit which ended with a crash at one of the Sunland Park Mall entrances. First responders just arrived on the scene, and we can see that there are 4 migrants, one of them possibly with a broken leg. Now, the driver did take off on foot, but he was eventually captured.
The driver's in the back.
we got him.
Yeah, we got him.
Cool, all right, perfect.
Officials tell me this is the driver. He's 19 years old and had hundreds of dollars in cash in his pocket. Meanwhile, DPS troopers flying over the Santa Teresa area captured this.
I got brake lights, brother. I don't know if you see that white Hyundai Tucson SUV to your 6 o'clock.
10-4 coming up on the bend right now. Right turn bend. I got eyes on him. He's looking for something.
Like I said, he started pumping his brakes. I don't know what he's up to. Just check him out.
He's pulling over. Looks like we got a group out here in the brush.
The moment a smuggler picks up a group of migrants in a desert area. The pilot radios the trooper we're riding with.
All right, underground. Looks like there were about 10 to 12 in the bush there. About 8 loaded up or so. I think there's still about 2 to 4 maybe. We're pretty far out.
Letting them know an SUV just loaded a group of migrants. The two work hand in hand.
What I think is happening is they're using some type of app system to get a pin drop where there's bodies to be picked up. We'll just get recruited through this app, come out, pick up some bodies, take them to wherever, another pin drop, and then they'll get paid for it.
The pilot is letting troopers know which direction the driver and his illegal cargo are driving in.
It's currently going to be eastbound on Strauss.
10-4, do you know if it's going to make its way up Artcraft or Country Club area?
10-4, it's going to be Artcraft eastbound just past Donovan.
All right, so you'll have ice cream. You'll have ice.
Right away, Trooper Garcia stops on Artcraft, waiting for the smuggler to come to him.
Vehicle coming up to the first intersection.
Garcia is listening to the eye in the sky,
I'm not too far with your Mexico plates.
alerting him
It's going to be in the number 2 lane.
that the SUV in question is coming his way.
10-4, we're approaching.
Bentley lane number 2 behind the white minivan. It's going to be number 6 in line.
That's right there.
All right, troop, it's a vehicle passing directly in front of you right now.
He spots the SUV in question, getting behind him, turning on his lights and sirens,
Troopers lit him up.
and tries to pull him over.
Looks like he's yielding, pulling over.
get ready for bailout. Eric, if you can keep eyes with the driver, please.
The driver seems to slow down, but quickly speeds up, and the pursuit begins. Other troopers speed ahead to try to stop the smuggler as well, but the driver evades them.
Driver's wearing blue shirt. Driver's wearing blue shirt.
You can see a trooper deploying stop sticks, which are supposed to puncture the tires, but the sticks fail to deploy.
Miss on the spikes.
The pursuit enters dangerous territory into a highly populated residential area at speeds of up to 70 miles an hour.
2 school buses at the intersection coming up. 2 school buses at the intersection.
This school bus sees the pursuit and slows down. The smuggler blows through stop signs while the trooper slows down to make sure no one is crossing at intersections. Finally, when the trooper decides it's time to end the pursuit, he lets us know what's about to happen.
Brace yourself.
Trooper Garcia tries a pit maneuver, bumping into the smuggler's car, not once, but twice, with the driver speeding up with no regard for other drivers, much less for his cargo. Finally, the third maneuver brings the pursuit to a dramatic end. The driver loses control, flipping over 3 times, coming to a stop, smoke rising from his hood.
4B10 West El Paso, call EMS.
This is a side-by-side of the rollover from above and from the ground. Border Patrol agents, troopers, and undercover officers rush to pull the migrants out of the SUV to safety. One of those is Judith, who was in the back of the SUV wearing no restraints. Visibly shaken, I asked her what she was thinking when the SUV flipped over and over.
I thought we were going to die there.
Officials forcibly pull the driver out of the vehicle. Listen to what he tells them as he's being pulled out, which translates to, "They will kill me." 35-year-old Angel Omar Arcienega from Durango, Mexico, was booked on human smuggling charges. Despite this heart-stopping crash, no one was seriously injured. Garcia explains why he initiated the pit maneuver when he did.
That the children are getting ready. They're probably in the vehicle on their way to school. The last thing I want, sir, is one of the kids to get hurt, one of the parents to be involved in an accident, sir. That's why I decided to activate the pit maneuver.
Sergeant Torres explains the majority of these pursuits happen during the overnight hours when smugglers feel they have the cover of night. However, DPS has at its disposal helicopters with night vision capability and are always keeping an eye out.
We're all assisting for one goal. Is to get these people off the road because we know where it leads to, and it's not safe for them. They might feel like they're coming to America and they're going to go to a safer place, but they get taken to these stash houses and they get abused. They get told that they pay a debt.
I asked Judith, after experiencing what she went through, if it was worth it.
The truth is, no.
As for the driver, 35-year-old Angel Omar Arcienega, he was charged with evading arrest and human smuggling, which is a third-degree felony. And according to DPS, if convicted, he could face between 2 to 10 years in prison. But when we come back, we go in-depth with DPS and the El Paso County Sheriff's Office to talk about their pursuit policies. Also, you may have watched a story that aired earlier in the week, but we'll share never-before-seen video of migrants trying to evade capture in the desert that only the eye in the sky was able to record. All that when we come back. You're watching ABC-7 Extra, Sunday edition, where news comes first.
The Honda Civic is designed to move you. In fact, Car and Driver has called the Civic more fun to drive than top competitors, because in their performance testing, the Civic came out ahead. With more power and sharper handling than its rivals. The Honda Civic, built for all kinds of fun. Get a great deal on the Civic. Contact your Honda dealer today or shop online.
Orthopedic care. We believe these two words are better together. At the hospitals of Providence, when caring for joints, bones, and muscles, our orthopedic team of surgeons, specialists, and physical therapists are recognized not only for positive patient outcomes, but for the way we care. Start your journey to a pain-free life. Healthcare is better together at the hospitals of Providence.
Watch Smart Money Thursday on ABC-7 at 4 with Myro Capital Management. You'll learn how to save money the right way and make better decisions to set you and your family up for financial success. Smart Money Thursday on ABC-7 at 4, sponsored by Myro Capital Management.
There's DNA. Then there's heavy-duty DNA. HDNA. It's engineered into every aspect of the GMC Sierra HD. With the pulling power to prove it. Tow hitches of the world, prepare for glory.
New 2024 Sierra heavy-duty models arriving weekly. Stop by your GMC dealer to make your selection. See your El Paso Las Cruces GMC dealers.
A smuggler's pursuit from the perspective of the ground and the sky on a ride along with Texas DPS puts you in the passenger seat with ABC-7 cameras. Re-experience the moment this vehicle full of migrants was stopped by authorities. Catch the full story on kvia.com or scan the QR code.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. I want you to watch the footage we were unable to use in my special report, A Smuggler's Pursuit. This is video producer John McMahon captured while riding along with pilots on board DPS helicopter. In it, you can see Border Patrol agents finding migrants hiding in the bushes in the desert. One migrant in particular thought he was evading agents, but pilots radioed their location to the boots on the ground. Agents approached him and took him into custody. Now, I also want to welcome my guest, DPS Regional Director for the El Paso area, Jose Sanchez. Commander Sanchez made the DPS pursuit right along possible when we asked him about a trooper's pursuit policy. Now, joining us as well to talking about their pursuit policy is El Paso County Sheriff's Commander Ryan Urrutia. And with us as well is KVIA Special Projects producer John McMahon. John was on board the DPS helicopter and captured all the key moments before, during, and after the pursuit. Let's start with you, Commander Sanchez, the DPS Regional Director. The DPS pursuit policy is vastly different than that of other law enforcement agencies. What is it, and how successful has it been as part of Operation Lone Star?
So our pursuit policy is different than other agencies, and that's simply because of the fact of our mission is different, especially when it comes to Operation Lone Star West. You know, other agencies such as the Sheriff's Department, they're not working Operation Lone Star West, and that's assigned to us by the governor. We have certain directives to help protect our border, to combat human trafficking, to combat labor trafficking, to make sure that we ensure public safety. And our success, I would say, I would put it at the highest level right now.
And why is it that you're able to follow such a broad pursuit policy where you determine when it is, like we just saw, that you can start that pit maneuver? Why is it that you can do it and other agencies cannot? Is it that you have more leeway?
I can't speak on behalf of the other agencies. I can just speak about the Texas Department of Public Safety. And we have our pursuit policy in place for many reasons. When you look at what we do across the state, you know, there's a lot of rural areas, there's a lot of urban areas, and we're very diverse when it comes to demographics and populations. Therefore, because of that, we concentrate heavily on training in Florence and Austin when it comes to pursuits. We have a very robust pursuit track that we train on. Part of that training includes pit maneuvers. You know, part of that includes use of force, such as disengaging your weapon at a vehicle in order to disengage the vehicle from a pursuit. We also practice tactical containment with our vehicles, which is the boxing in of cars. The other thing that we also have too is our operations, our air operations, which in that video, you know, y'all were able to put John up in the air while you were on the ground with the troopers. So you can see how that is a vital source. When you have air watching a vehicle, you can do things such as back off when you get into a dangerous area where you got a highly popular area, such as Trooper Garcia did. You know, in the video, as soon as he got to the intersection, he backed off. He was checking for traffic. You know, we can do those types of things. And then we can also foresee into where the pursuit vehicle will be, what type of area they'll be entering in, and that's relayed to the ground trooper. Whereas you're just on the ground doing a pursuit, all you have is the view from the car. As you can see, it's very different from the car versus what Mr. John was seeing from the air.
Commander Urrutia, what is the sheriff's pursuit policy, and does it come anywhere close to DPS's?
So we have a more restrictive pursuit policy with the sheriff's office, and ours is a violent felony that is being actually committed. So we restricted it for a number of reasons. We have a mission to serve our community, keep them safe, and part of our safety is we are very stringent in how we pursue. DPS operates within the parameters of the law, so do we. We've just chosen to make ours more restrictive. So and for our officers to engage, the risk to the public of that individual fleeing has to be greater than the crime being committed. So it's got to be a very, very serious felony in progress.
Do you all train at all for pit maneuvers?
No, we do not incorporate this training, and we don't put it into our policy. We've chosen to do this because that is a force option that we have not incorporated, and I don't see us doing that anytime in the near future.
Give me a scenario on what you just described, that I guess the threat would be greater to the public, and that's when you would either stop them or take evasive action. What scenario are we talking about?
So you would be talking about a violent felony in progress, such as aggravated robbery where they shot and killed somebody, and then they are continuing to shoot at motorists and citizens as they're fleeing from the scene. That would prompt us to engage in a pursuit because there's a risk to the community. We want to take this person into custody, and that would fall into our pursuit policy.
John, well, you had a heck of a ride, didn't you? And here's something that very few people know about you. You've actually been on Hollywood Productions. Was this pursuit as close to a carefully choreographed stunt?
I know that they take a lot of time and effort to put those stunts together. This was probably more exciting because it's really happening. It's with real people involved, real human lives are at stake, and to see the care that was put into, I know it seems really violent and such, but to see the care that was put into stopping this and with no injuries, really.
Right. When you were up in the air, what impressed you the most about the communication between the eyes in the sky and the boots on the ground?
There's a lot that's going on. I remember one thing, I hope this answers your question. The chatter that we were hearing in the headsets, I was able to have headsets on. We're hearing chatter from El Paso Police Department, from the Border Patrol. We're hearing a bunch of different radio, and because of that, there's I know that they're short-staffed up there, and there's a lot that's going on, but at the same time, they don't have all the resources that they need to get a lot of these things done, and the helicopter has to make the decision of what to follow. And the pilot had told me that. He said, we're pursuing this, and the area that we were in was covered by a bunch of agents, resources in that area, because that's a very trafficked section of the border. And I'm hoping that answers your question, but
yeah.
There's just so much going on. It's the communication. I don't understand all the lingo.
Yeah, but it's definitely a nail biter, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Commander Sanchez, although there were no serious injuries in the rollover crash we witnessed, some pursuits have ended in fatalities. What are some of the decisions a trooper has to take into consideration when it comes to the general public?
The same thing they take into consideration every single day they take the job on. Every single day they put that uniform on. Heck, every single day they step out the door. Our personnel and all officers always have the public's safety in mind, no matter if they're on duty or off duty. And so same thing going in pursuits. What is the cause to public safety? For example, say if we were pursuing somebody, we tried to use all our tools necessary to stop the pursuit vehicle, and all of a sudden we're coming into a school zone that's heavily populated, let's say Montwood High School. They know that they have that decision and that discretion to terminate the pursuit, and they have. And they've made really great success in terminating pursuits that could have been deadlier than the pursuit itself.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to take a really quick break. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. Still ahead, the number of migrant crossings into the U.S. by way of the borderland have decreased, but are drivers still picking up migrants, which can lead to pursuits? And what role can Sheriff's Office take in helping DPS with these pursuits when they happen in the county? I'll ask my guests when we come back.
There are trucks, and then there's the GMC Sierra. Available with the connected driving experience. And the world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra. It's the truck. Or get $4,500 purchase cash on 2023 Sierra Elevation 5.3-liter V8 light-duty models.
See your El Paso Las Cruces GMC dealers.
So guys, how does this sound?
Nice. Check this out.
Wow!
What about him?
Awesome! Get $7,000 off MSRP on a new GMC Sierra 1500 Denali.
You'll hit the right note when you shop at Casa Buick GMC.
Home of the nice guys. Yeah!
Welcome back to this third and final segment of ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. I want to show you yet another video ABC-7 Special Projects producer John McMahon recorded while on board a DPS helicopter. What you're watching is a Border Patrol agent being guided by pilots on board the DPS chopper to a small group of brush in the desert. Watch this. It was because of that direction given to the agent eventually finds the migrant hiding, then taking him into custody. All of this in the presumed cover of night. I also want to welcome back guest DPS Regional Director for the El Paso area, Jose Sanchez. Joining us as well to talk about their pursuit policy is El Paso County Sheriff Commander Ryan Urrutia, and my partner in crime for this shoot, John McMahon, the man who shot the video you just watched, as well as being creative force behind the story that you watched. John, what caught your attention the most when migrants were trying to hide the pursuit, and most especially the coordination that we've been talking about this entire time? How seamless was it?
The communication between the ground and air forces was incredible. These, you can see the training that they go through and how it really pays off. They're so calm, they know their mission, and they're focused to get it done in a safe way. You feel that when you're up there. The communication also to tell me what's going on in the middle of all that was impressive as well. I was impressed with the whole thing all around. It's different than being on a Hollywood production set, you know?
Commander Urrutia, you've told us about the Sheriff's Office pursuit policy, and we learned from DPS that migrants who are picked up by smugglers are many times taken to a stash house. The Sheriff's Office, does it crack down on stash houses, right?
So we've made several arrests for human smuggling as well. I believe we have over 20 this year. So that's a rise from the 12 we had the previous year. So, you know, there's dangers to individuals being smuggled. They're being smuggled for sex trade, labor trade, you know, women, children. So these people are in danger. So we want to hold those individuals that are smuggling them accountable as well. You know, so this is not a victimless crime. This is a crime that affects our community and affects people entering the United States and Texas.
Yeah, so you've been able to crack down on some stash houses?
Yes, we have found stash houses, and we hold those individuals that are harboring those migrants accountable. We arrest them, and you know, we turn these individuals over to their migration process through DPS. I mean, through the United States Border Patrol.
Do you have a special unit that goes after, in conjunction with Border Patrol and DPS? Do you have a special unit that goes after these stash houses?
No, we do not have a unit dedicated to just this. We work it through our agreements with the federal partners and our local partners, and act on information that's provided to us.
Commander Sanchez, Regional Director, DPS has gotten a great deal of backlash from critics who say pursuits can only lead to disastrous results, apart from telling them that these pursuits wouldn't be necessary if the driver would just pull over. What message do you have for these critics?
Well, for those critics, which I think are very few, because what I get from the public when I'm out and about is I get a lot of thank yous. And especially with what my troopers are doing, and all just in law enforcement, what we're doing to protect the border. But what I would say to those that are criticizing is let's look back at the history of when we first had the automobile. Why do we have traffic laws? All right, when we first got the automobile, nobody knew what they were doing with the automobile. They were driving left, some were driving on the right side, they weren't stopping, things like that. We had tons of accidents. And this is the reason why we have traffic laws. And so with traffic laws, then we had traffic enforcement. And this is part of it. If you're getting pulled over for a traffic violation, that's what you're supposed to do, is pull over. You're not supposed to run from the law. Once you run from the law, now you just committed another crime, right? And looking back at this video, like John said, man, you couldn't have not planned a better video to show what truly happens on a pursuit. Look at the smuggler and what the smuggler says. They're going to kill me. So he would rather drive down that road and kill innocent citizens because he's scared of the organization that he works for, the criminal organization, who's going to kill him because he's about to lose a commodity. And what's that commodity? If you look at the passengers in those vehicles, you can easily see that these individuals, especially the young ladies, are probably going to be used for sex trafficking, if not labor trafficking. And that is the reason why he says they're going to kill me, because he's losing a special commodity. It's just the same thing in the drug world. When a drug dealer loses a big amount of drugs, what does the drug cartel do? They kill him. We see that happen in Juarez all the time, right across in our sister city. And so this kind of paints the picture of how in-depth these criminals are. This isn't just somebody that's just decided, oh, I don't feel like stopping. No, they're not stopping for several reasons. The commodities, they're wanted, they're carrying drugs, they're carrying guns, they're committing other felonious crimes during the pursuit of this pursuit.
And they're getting to get a big chunk of cash. That very first arrest that we noticed, the driver, who was only 19 years old, had a large amount of cash on him. So they're paying really good money to bring those smugglers. Is this the common theme that you're seeing, where the cartels or these transnational organizations, as I know Border Patrol likes to call them, are they recruiting and offering a large amount of cash?
Yes, they're recruiting. They're offering anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. As a matter of fact, they're recruiting our high school students in the El Paso area. And they're doing this through social media, through TikTok, through Instagram, through WhatsApp, any method they can use. They're putting little advertisements out saying, hey, and actually they call it a pollo run. And they advertise, if you want to do a pollo run, we will pay you $2,000, $3,000. Send me your information. And then they'll send them the location where they're supposed to pick up and transport.
One of the things that I know Sergeant Elliot Torres was telling us that they are taking them to stash houses. Is this what you're hearing, also a common theme, that that's directly where they're going once they pick them up, or do they drop them off elsewhere?
They're taking them to stash houses. And as you can see in that video, where were the license plates from? The state of New Mexico. That is our biggest threat. About half of the apprehensions that come through the Border Patrol El Paso sector, because the Border Patrol El Paso sector does not cover El Paso, but it covers eastern New Mexico as well. Half of those apprehensions are coming out of the state of New Mexico. They're crossing through Mexico into New Mexico and then coming back into El Paso, because we are the greater city that has all the transportation methods, the stash houses. We're bigger than Las Cruces by 3 or 4 times the amount. So it just makes sense logistically to bring the migrants back in. That's exactly what this individual is doing. I guarantee you the migrants were picked up in New Mexico. John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you were on the flight.
They were.
And then they traveled right back into El Paso.
Okay, Regional Director Jose Sanchez, Commander Ryan Urrutia, and of course, John McMinn, who I like to call John Hollywood. Thank you so much for taking time and sharing your Sunday evening with us to talk to our viewers. Appreciate it. And I want to thank you for joining us. And in case you missed my special report, A Smuggler's Pursuit, you can watch it right now on our website, kvia.com. Also, if you suspect smugglers have opened a stash house in your neighborhood, report it. Call 911. I'm Saul Saenz, and this has been ABC 7 Extra Sunday Edition. Good night y buenas noches.